good people. You are watching and listening to Worthyish with Maria Bush. I am your host, Maria Bush. You know, this show, we go behind the curtains with everyday heroes who have took their journey to success, and some way around their life, they teetered their own self-worth. And so we're going to talk a lot about how they were able to break through that feeling of not feeling enough, their worthiness. And so stay tuned. We have special guests for each episode, so you won't be disappointed. Hey, good people. So we have a special guest, Darren Smith. He is a native of Kansas City, an old friend of mine, and just an awesome colleague to have. And I want to introduce him to you all. Darren, thank you so much for being here.
Well,
you look sharp.
Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me and allowing me to be the first guest. So, you know, this is something I'll be able to treasure for a long period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. I cherish every one of our encounters. You really are a man that's inspiring, and you always look sharp in your suits. Today is a special one. Listen.
Well, I picked this out just for your show, so.
I appreciate that. But you look good. Listen, always.
Mission accomplished.
Well, tell the people about your background a little bit, how you were raised in regards to when we talk about your background and your expertise. Tell the folks where you come from.
Well, I'm born and raised in Kansas City, Missouri. My mom, Nina Smith, at the time was married to my father, Lucian Smith. They were married for about I think they were married till I was 8 years old before they divorced, went separate ways. But I have a ton of siblings, 5 on my father's side, 4 on my mother's side, and most of us grew up together. You know, closer to obviously the siblings on my mom's side, but we grew up. She was a woman who I would consider the young woman who lived in the shoes. She had a lot of kids, didn't know what to do, and I said to say that she opened up her house literally to like family. Mm-hmm. I remember her older brother, my uncle, he stayed with us. Sisters on my father's side moved in with us and stayed with us, and she had kids, they stayed with us, and then cousins moved in and stayed with us, and at one time, 2 of my older brother, 2 of his baby mamas lived with us and their kids. It was just like, it was crazy. We only had like three bedrooms. So it was interesting to say the least. Of course, you know, we still, but you know, she made a way, and because of that type of heart, and because of the type of woman that she was, that she kind of passed down to us, you know, it made the strive, the perseverance, the endurance, looking at the long game, made it easier for me as a kid growing up, because I knew that if she could persevere, because she would work long hours in the political field and be in the church, being my pastor's assistant. I mean, there was a lot of long nights that we grew up down at the county courthouse, and you know, literally just political minefield. I remember going door to door passing out election ballots and stuff at the age of 4. You know, trying to make sure people were getting out to vote. So so hard work and all that type of stuff was a thing for us. And in my field in journalism, it started for me my sophomore year in high school. Mm-hmm. I was the manager of our basketball team. I played football, weightlifting, and track in high school at Central High School in Kansas City. But I had a cousin that was an All-American that played on our basketball team. So, just to hang out, be close to him, and because I love sports, I managed the basketball team. And I would always read newspapers. I probably shouldn't be saying this, but growing up, I used to steal newspapers. I tell people I was stealing knowledge. You know, 'cause I always want to know what was going on.
You did.
And growing up, literally, this happened. In the 4th or 5th grade, I was stealing encyclopedias from my classroom. You know, so like the teacher wasn't looking, I take 2 or 3 encyclopedias home at a time. By the time by the end of the couple of weeks, I had an entire set at my house, and I'd just be sitting home just reading. Whether it was encyclopedias, dictionaries, thesauruses, atlases, almanacs, Guinness Book. I was just reading. I was just something about knowledge I wanted, and and grew up watching sports. We watched wrestling, Chicago Bulls, the Royals, stuff like that, and so my basketball coach was like, Smith, just in case you don't make it professionally or whatever, said I said I'm gonna get you involved in sports that you can be involved with all your life. I'm like, okay, what you got in mind? So he has the sports director who was at KPRS radio station, had him come up to the school the following day. He said, I want him to intern under you. 15 years old. I'm like, huh?
Wow.
And all I know is a week later, he brings a credential to the school talking about, I expect to see you Sunday at the Arrowhead. It was a Sunday night football game with the Chiefs. Like, really? And I did that. I was eating dinner in the press box with John Madden. I said, oh yeah. So you couldn't tell me nothing after that. I was like, I knew then. I had to give over the sheer just audacity of being in a locker room with 15 at the time.
Right.
I had grown men just walking around, and I wasn't really
hanging
ready
out
for
loud.
that. Just I mean, it's one thing, shower, we all, but that was unexpected. But other than that, I was like, okay. But I knew then, okay, if it doesn't work out, I'm always going to want to do this. And so I knew then that this is the path that I wanted to take growing up.
Wow. What a tremendous, it's track record.
Yeah.
It's almost like you were created to do this.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because as I went through high school, and because I grew up in a political deal, when I went on to college, my two areas that I focused on was political science and journalism, with the strong suit in sports. So I was on the radio station at the campus, the TV station, the newspaper, did the news writing, photography, as we talked about earlier, and then I was a freshman class president. Then I sat on the student board I was a student curator on the board of curators at the school. So it was like,
oh, wow.
I did both things, and I felt I did it equally well, along with doing other activities. I was in the marching band. I think I was in the marching band as a staff member. I graduated, came back, worked for the school, was hired as their photographer, and the president said they need some more people to play trumpet or baritone or something. He said, I want you to join. I'm like, I work for the school, right? I can't. No, I want you in the band. So,
oh, wow.
President was paying the bills. He was paying my salary. So I was the only staff person in the band. How does that work? But yeah. So yeah, it was interesting.
Wow. And when I think about just listening to all the different environments you were in and leadership you were in, how was it any time where you felt challenged, or how did you felt challenged to show up as your authentic self? Because I know when you're in those public facing type of positions, sometimes they want you to act a certain way, be a certain way, carry yourself a certain way. I don't say that, especially being that young, the expectations. And so did you internalize that, or did you show up as yourself?
I showed up as myself, which got me in trouble a lot of times. Not that I would, I probably got a whooping when I got home or something, but it was more so. But when I say show up as my authentic self, is that what you saw is what you got. Now, I had to learn just over time, because I wasn't trained or I was being, when I say groom, I mean groom as in, being taught the do's and don'ts. So, for example, one time I had left. Yeah, so the Chiefs played a Monday night game, and I left basketball practice, and I was in the press box with a basketball, with a basketball jersey on. I didn't know 15, 16 years old, I didn't know, the protocol as it relates to what you wear and don't wear. So when my boss came up there, he gave me a sports jacket or whatever, and then, he kind of explained to me the next time, the kind of do's and don'ts. So little stuff like that I did not know, where, you just had to find out from just it happening, things of that nature. But most times, growing up, moms told us, don't go in and do this and that, and so you don't go in and doing it. If you do it, you buck, you know what happens. And so, but I was one that never really, growing up, I never really kind of went against the system or anything like that. I always try to do the right thing. It's like if you just don't know, like I said, with the time with me in my dress appearance at the football game, you just didn't know. So, but most of the time, I mean, I was always my authentic self, and I didn't really speak unless I was spoken to. And if I had something to add, I always thought before I spoke, so I didn't sound, ignorant or uneducated on a topic. And if I didn't understand it, I don't know, but I can find out, or I can find out for you.
Yeah. In that, was there a time where you felt like, or when was it that you felt challenged with your self-worth, where you were like, you know what, the rubber meets the road, I'm really low right now?
I mean, there were times. So there were times in my college days. High school, I can't really pinpoint a time just because you experience so many highs and lows, growing up or whatever. So I can't say that one stood out. There were times in college where, even though I felt that I was smart, well, I know I was smart, but sometimes you felt uncomfortable because you might be like, damn, that person might be a little bit smarter than me. That might know something that I don't know about, and because of that. Again, as someone who, for a living, I guess, was talking, or you would talk a lot because, you're in the journalism field, and because mind you now, and when I'm in college, I've already been covering the Chiefs for about 3 years. I've been in the locker room, doing reporter type stuff, and then going to college trying to take official classes to learn the business like that. They expect you to talk and ask questions, raise thought-provoking issues, and then so to have those challenges where you feel like there might be somebody who knows something more than you, it would challenge the ego, so to speak, and be like, damn, I got to get back. I got to get back into either the books or try to hone something, because I do remember, and I do remember growing up that because I was well read and educated. I mean, it was to the point where literally I was reading old TV guides. Don't ask me why.
Man, listen, that was a lot of information on TV guides.
And I mean, literally,
Reader's Digest.
Yeah, there was a lady at my church who would bring up bags of old TV guides just to bring to me. And I promise you, I don't know why I was reading them. It was already in the past, so I don't know what I got from it. But I was just reading so much. So, growing up and in the high school, so I guess you could say that, I would always wasn't picked on because I was never bullied, but, people talk about how, you sound, growing up, when they say you sounded white, made it seem like you were educated, but you were like, you were trying to sound or speak like a white person because you could put a sentence together. And, in the back of my mind, I'm like, what's that say about you? Which, that you're thinking about me like that, but in return, what are you saying about yourself? And so, for me, if I felt anything, it was me more so feeling ill or feeling sorry for the other person, and really not much so for me as it relates to confidence. Because, I mean, I was always confident in anything I did, because my mom, everybody thought I was, egotistical or something like that, but, I was just assured of myself because, one, I guess I felt I was well versed when it came to, education and stuff like that. Like, well, whatever, and so, and I was someone who I saw, like, the flip side of what happens when you get in trouble. So I was that one kid that's like, man, if I saw my brother and my sister get in trouble, you ain't catching me. So I'm like, I'm learning through you all, so, I don't be in that situation.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. That's something.
It's kept me out of prison. Kept me out of jail.
Come on now.
I've never been arrested, so I'm proud of that.
Right? Said, I saw her do it. I'm not doing it.
And if I was doing it, you was never going to catch me.
Yeah. See, listen. Darren, that's one thing I really admire about you is your level of confidence. You know who you are. And despite what someone says or what they don't say, what places you're in, what places you're not in, you know who you are. But are there times and moments where you feel like, you know what, I can be better, I could be doing better? And how do you deal with that?
Every day. I mean, I always feel like I can be better than I was the day before. And a lot of that just comes from, maybe what happens that particular day, whether it's me doing a show, whether it's me asking questions, whether it's me, day trading, whether it's me, if I'm interested in someone trying to figure out how to sweep them up off their feet. And so I always think, what can I do either differently or do it better than I did the day before? And so I don't want to say like outer body experiences, but I always just try to figure out, okay, if I'm looking at myself from your vantage point, what can I do differently than I did before, or the day before, or a week before, or something that would help me get a little bit further to the end goal and what I want. And so, so that's my thought process and how I try to to better myself. I mean, a lot of stuff when it comes to, let's use for example day trading. Maybe it's just me doing more studying, more watching videos, more trying to practice strategies and stuff like that, and back testing, so I can perhaps be successful. When it comes to my sports stuff, a lot of times it's more so I have a lot of stuff that pops in my head, but the problem with me that when I have stuff in my head, I don't normally have a pen or paper around me when I want to jot it down, so I don't forget it, or because I have so much information flowing in my head, I don't never like put it down when I think I might need something at that particular time. And then I can probably grab my phone, but it's like, but even then, if I don't really have a pencil and pad or something to write something down where I can go back to it, I think that for me, something a little, because for me it's not really a big major thing that I feel like that would help my improvement. It's more so the little stuff, because the little stuff adds up to bigger things.
It's something you said. It's like you're trying to get better, so you have to study. And that means being teachable. Yep. And I think when we think about self-worth, we think about everything is self. But I really truly believe in order to have a strong sense of self or rediscover your self-worth, you have to have a strong, positive community. So can you speak to that, especially when we're talking about younger children and this younger generation that are not so much want to listen to the older people or someone older, give them direction and guidance, the importance of being teachable.
Well, to be teachable, you have to be, which is something as I've mentioned before, I wasn't growing up. It's one thing to be confident, but it's another thing to be cocky. But you have to be, it took me a long time in life to learn and practice humility. And that's the biggest thing, because to be able to learn, you have to be humble enough to realize that you don't know everything. And because you don't know everything, there are people that, know stuff that if you humble yourself to learn from them, you educate yourself more on what it is that you're trying to. So like, I didn't know anything about day trading. My brother got me involved, and it got me in this group, and the person who's kind of over the group is a pastor, and he kind of taught us. I mean, there's always still more to learn. So as I mentioned about studying, going watching videos, he'll send us videos stuff for us to watch, because he's picking up. He's always trying to learn. So if he's always trying to learn and then trying to bequeath us with that knowledge and stuff like that, you have to. Now again, and the humility part is not knowing that you'll take and I'm using day trading as an example. You're gonna take a lot of L's. How do you come back? How do you learn from those L's so you minimize the amount of losses that you take, so you can become profitable and something like that? And so same as it is for me when it comes to sports and anything else. Again, you just have to, because I know I don't know everything. I don't have a problem, going out seeking information, seeking advice or anything of that nature, because if it's in me to want to be better, that's the personal drive that you have to make. But my advice again, one, you just have to be humble enough to acknowledge that you need or that you want help or advice. And I don't really call it help, but there's to know that there are weaknesses that you have in certain areas, and the only way to strengthen it is to go out and seek that advice, seek that knowledge and stuff like that can help you be better.
That's good. And I think the key to when you say weakness, not looking at it as like being a failure or anything, right. Just being able to know that you do have some points where you do have to grow, and learning to accept it. Because I think a lot of times we don't accept our flaws, we don't accept our weaknesses, and that what keeps us from reaching out for help.
Yeah, I remember, I kind of tell the story some. So, co-hosts that I have, where we do our pregame and postgame stuff, we met each other, I think, 2011, 2012, happened to be on the football field at the Chiefs game. I was shooting pictures, and he was down there doing something, and we linked up or whatever. He had this, he had his sports thing. You know, it was basically internet based, and I did a lot of internet stuff too. So I was like, kind of joined forces or whatever. Mm-hmm. But then when the opportunity came that I could have my own show on terrestrial radio, I took it. But because he had kind of brought me along to help him on this internet stuff, I was trying to return the favor to bring him on with me, but again, everybody's not comfortable in their own skin for one reason or another, and so it became a thing where one teaches the other, vice versa, watches the other. You start looking at it me as competition. Like, bro, are you serious? Like, I've been doing this since 1995. It's 2013, 2015, about to be 2016. So you really think,
Yes, I've been doing this.
Yeah, so, and my thing is like, you're doing internet stuff. I'm like, and, we had to fight and claw for credentials. Well, I was doing stuff for newspapers. I was getting credentials anyway, but for him. So I'm like, the station that I was on was an affiliate of the Chiefs, Royals, and KU. So I'm like, bro, we can get in the door easy. But, his thing was like, well, what I felt was like, because it wasn't his idea and his brand, like, it is what it is. And so, we had a little falling out, and then it got to be a competing interest. But then, literally one day post game, he said something about butt or something unfastened or whatever. And I was like, just came out and said something. I appreciate it, because I now for me, we took shots at each other. My shots landed a little bit more viciously than others, but there was a situation where, I'm looking at something that he was doing online. He was live streaming, and his audio wasn't all that good. And I sent him a text. I said, man, you probably want to hear it from me. I said, but fix your audio. I said, video is one thing, but if people are watching, they still want to be able to hear it, even if it's dark or something like that.
Right.
I said, as long as your audio is on point, you can kind of get away with some stuff. And so, he thanked me, whatever it was, what it was. But like I said, post game, one game, he said something, and the next thing you know, he was humble enough to apologize and said the falling out was more so his girl than his or whatever. And I said that that wouldn't get us in trouble, but but in that situation, that's what happened. And so we end up going out to eat and just talking things through and trying to figure out how we can kind of get back to where we were kind of doing what we were doing. And so for me, I've always been comfortable in my own skin. I don't mind helping. I don't mind really who gets the credit. It's like I just want the job to get done. And so, and that's the other thing too. And I've tried to explain to them sometimes, but ego is what it is. And in this field, you kind of have to have ego, but you don't have to have it so big where you kind of lose yourself. And so I'll never lose myself like that. And so, as I told him before, I said, man, it's enough out there for everybody. I said, but also, if you do what you're supposed to do and you have a genuine interest in helping people, stuff like that, you'll get blessed. I mean, you'll have all the desires that you want. And so one of the things that I like is that I don't mind helping anybody. I mean, people ask me for advice, come on shows and things of that nature. People have always asked me how much you charge. Like, for me, just talking. I mean, and I tell people that because when I was trying to come up in the business, when I was trying to, and people think I've quote unquote made it, but I still haven't got to where exactly I want to be, but I'm still climbing. But it's like because of the relationships that I've built and being humble, saying, going, asking people, hey, can you come on my show? I'm trying to, do this, do that. They come on, never charge, whatever. I can't, as a person, turn around and do that to somebody else because people, paved the way. People, reached out, helped me to, try to get to where I'm at. If I see other people who are trying to do that, it would only be right for me to do the same thing in return.
Pay it forward.
Got to.
Yeah. Tell me, what is one thing that you or some advice that you would give someone that is trying to increase or repair their self-worth?
Be able to, first of all, look within yourself and be honest with yourself to acknowledge where your flaws lie at. Because if you don't even do that, then you're not, you're just not gonna find your self-worth, because you have to literally sit back and say, okay, where am I flawed at? And admit it to yourself. It's okay to admit. Like, I had an ex-girlfriend tell me that there was something I used to always say, it was whatnot. I used to always say it, and I didn't really realize it, but she was like, you say that all the time and you don't realize it. And, when you're doing sports stuff like that, or you're talking to radio, you may say it so much that people may not think you haven't expanded the vocabulary. She's like, I know you're smart. And so sometimes somebody may catch something to let you know, and then then when you think about it, like, damn, and now you say, I guess I do say it a lot. And then once you do it, you acknowledge it. It's like, okay, how can I kind of, bring it down or take it out my vocabulary and stuff like that. So you have to, again, be humble enough to notice some of your flaws, and along the way try to figure out how you can, to get better at it or to correct those flaws.
That's good. I think that's
and don't be afraid. Look, don't be afraid to ask for help and ask for advice. That's something too. I mean, I'm not perfect, and the only perfect person who walked the earth was a little bit over 2,000 years ago, and so, knowing that, the president of the United States has advisors because he doesn't know everything, so he has to ask for help. If he can ask for help, I can too.
Come on. We're perfectly imperfect people.
Exactly. And so it's but again, for me, all that falls back on my spirituality, because knowing that there's someone greater than us here, above us, and even someone greater below us, that has walked the earth. It's one of those things that, I know I'm flawed. I know I've made mistakes. I will make mistakes in the future. How do I get better how do I get better from it? And how do I, if I make a mistake, correct it so I don't make that same mistake again? One of the things I always always thought about, was not making the same mistake twice. So.
Yeah. Oh, that's wise words. Listen, Darren, I appreciate you so much for showing up and being vulnerable, us having a really good, just real talk. And I hope someone today is blessed and inspired and empowered by your words today. So how can folks get in contact with you if they want to further this conversation or hear more about what you do in your services?
Well, they can reach out to me on social media. I actually do check my stuff on social media. On Instagram and Twitter, it's at Darren Smith, WHB, DAREN SMITH, WHB. Facebook, I think it's Darren Smith 816 or something like that. You can just pull me up, and if you see me in a suit, that's me.
Yes.
So you're not, there's only one of me out there. But other than that, yeah, just reach out to me on social media, and I'm always willing to, just help people however I can.
Yeah, a passionate man, good people. So yes, I appreciate you.
Yeah, one of these days, that passion will transfer. And, man, I find that right woman. Well, it's gonna be curtains. It's gonna be curtains for her.
I can. Well, listen, good people. You all have watched an episode of Worthyish with Maria Bush. Until next time, stop trying to earn what you were born with, and that is worth.